Well, I have all of the inputs wired in now. This is the solo manual, 61 notes, and these two extra ones down here go to two of the toe pistons. This is the accompaniment manual, 61 notes, and these three go to the remaining three toe pistons. This is the 32 pedal inputs up here ending with here, and then the remainder of this, the first 12 of this cable represent the pistons under the keyboards, and then the rest of these wires are for the center rail stop tabs. And I actually put two extra ones in because I couldn't find where the two extra stop tabs on the curved rail come out. If I can't find them, I'll just wire another couple of wires directly to these two here. I think it's purple with blue, or violet with blue, and blue with violet. Those are the two extras that are in there. But from those up, these are the center rail stop tabs, and it ends with the last 12 here being the 12 pistons. I'll verify that I got it correct. I made a mistake, as I always seem to make mistakes, I don't know. But I should have looked the Artisan literature. I've wired one of these up before, so I'm familiar with Artisan boards, except I realized from the controller board, the controller board connects to the input of the first board, and how the software is configured and how the file is written is these boards have to be strung accordingly. And the way I wired it, what's going to end up happening, I believe, is the output of this board here is going to have to go over to the input of this board, which means I won't have a long enough data cable. So I have to see if Artisan can either send me a longer data cable. Looks like I would need one that, is a foot long at least. I'll have to measure to be sure, but all the other cables should connect in correctly depending on where I put the controller board. But the one cable, I'm going to need a longer cable to be able to go, because I believe this board needs to be the last in the string, because that's how the configuration file will configure these boards. I think I'm correct on this. So I'm continuing with the project at the East Troy Railroad Museum to virtualize the little Barton console. And one of the things that I have to do is I have to attach this pot to the swell pedal. Now, how do I do that? And also, whatever I do, it has to be easily reversible, because eventually this console will be playing real pipes. So we want the swell switch to be attached back on here exactly as it was originally. So I'm thinking a bracket like this, perhaps. I can drill the hole out bigger, and I could attach the pot to the bracket, but and then I have to put a linkage arm of some sort on there. The problem is the radius kind of changes slightly as it moves one way or the other. So how I'm going to get that linkage to work exactly right might be a challenge. It might not be as much of a challenge as I'm thinking, but I think I have to start putting parts in and just see where how far I can get with this project. So I have it this far. I got to figure out how I'm going to link it. That's actually going to be the trickiest part, is what to use for linkage. With what I have to work with and my skills, this is the best I could come up with. Now, the rotation of the pot is a very small percentage of the pot, but I'm told that that's all configurable in Hauptwerk. I hope they're right, because there isn't much of a change. It does bind up. Now, what I did was the hole at this end of the stick is elongated, so that as this goes forward, the shaft can move, because, the radius changes from one, when this goes out, the radius is longer here than it is here. So how do you linkage it up? I mean, there's various ways you can do it. It binds a little bit at the full on, but I don't think it's an issue. And here it is closed. So those fat felt washers I put on work pretty well. I think this is gonna be the best I can come up with. Here's another issue. Now I know that the stop keys were very, very dirty, but Deoxit cleaned it enough to be able to ring my diode detector on my meter. Now that's very, very low current. Keeping in mind that all of these contacts have to operate a 5-volt digital MIDI circuit, which we're talking very low current. So here I'm testing these buttons, and if I push the button, I'll get a reading, but it's not enough to make it beep. And I've sprayed Deoxit in there, and Deoxit doesn't clean it up. I tried it a couple times, I'll try it again, but it doesn't clean it up. The Deoxit works fine on the stop keys though. That's easy to get to. So what do I do with this thing? I can take it apart to see how it comes apart, but I don't like the idea of that. I'm sure that it worked probably when it was running on 12 volts going through a magnet, because there's a fairly good draw on that, and that's enough to clean the contacts, but I cannot get these contacts on any of these pistons to work. So I'm going to have to see what I can do with that. This Deoxit can, mine, it's mostly empty. I just brought it to test a couple of contacts to see if Deoxit will fix the stop tabs, and it does. But the push buttons, I'm pushing it in quite hard. And I can get it to work now. So maybe when I get some fresh Deoxit, I can spray those, but I can see the contacts in the holes. It's just a shorting wire. There's the contact wire here is here's a contact wire, here's a contact wire, and then when you push the piston, there's a bar that shorts the two out. So you've got two contacts to go through in order for it to work. They look clean, but like if I put this on this one here, well, I got that one working. See, this one hardly works at all. So I can work these over with some Deoxit when I get a fresh can of it. It is working better, but I don't think it's working good enough. If you push it real hard, see, I'm holding it in, and it's very intermittent. The contact is what you would call noisy. It's got a noisy contact. So here's what I think I might do. There's 12 pistons. I can buffer those with a 12-volt relay, put it on the 12-volt system, and then just buffer it to a relay, and I think actually that might be my best way to fix it. I don't want to take this apart. There's no need to, because I can see the contacts very clearly through those holes. So that's something I just don't want to do. I can get another, when I get my new can of Deoxit, I can clean with the Deoxit to see if that does anything. If not, then I think the next step is to use a relay to buffer it over. I've been cleaning contacts on the stop rail and also these pistons. The pistons are really giving me trouble. But so is the horseshoe rail. I've cleaned this first one and I got it down to 2.9 ohms. But you got to work them a few times to make sure you get a good connection. That's as low as I've gotten the resistance. I think that'll work. I'm keying a 5 volt digital interface, so I think 2.9 ohms will be enough to configure the hop work. Only time will tell, but I've only worked on one. I've got all these to do yet. But mainly what I'm interested in right now is these 12 pistons, which even using the strongest contact cleaner I had, I could not get them to work real well. So let me see. I'm going to connect up. I've got the wires, the 12 wires bare in the back of it, and I'm going to find the weakest one, and then I'm going to do a little test that I'll show in a later clip on this video. So here's the number 1 piston, but what kind of resistance is that connection? See how noisy it is? And I've worked on these. I've cleaned and cleaned and cleaned them. So I'm going to use this first one as a test. I think they're all about the same. So here's what I'm doing as an experiment. These are little 12 volt relays. Now the coil resistance is I think 312 ohms. That puts us down into about 3 or 4 milliamp current, I think. I'll have to recalculate it, but it's very low current draw. I've got my meter connected to the normally open contacts. And then here's my little power supply, which I'll supply with 12 volts. And I already know these relays will kick in at 8.5 volts. So what I'll do is I'll power it up, push the button, and see if I get, and of course when the relay makes, I'm going to get a solid connection across the meter. That I know, but will that weak contact be good enough to fire that relay? That's the question. If that doesn't work, then there's going to have to be a plan B. Well, it fires the relay just fine. So that's going to work. I'm really happy with that. Every time. So that's good news. There's enough current draw to fire the relay, but there's definitely not enough to run a digital interface at 5 volts. So now that I know this works, I'll finish wiring up all 12 of these little cube relays and put a small 12 volt power supply in the console. So this will actually be a buffer on the pistons. And I'm pretty satisfied they're going to work all the way across. I'll just hope for the best. I'll wire all of them up, mount this thing in here somewhere, and then we'll go from there and see how it works out at that point.